Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the SLP Solution Morning Show. I am your host, Carrie Clark from slpsolution.com, and today is Wednesday, August 15th, 2018, and today I've got a challenge for you. I'm going to challenge you to try the 4-to-1 ratio that we talk about today in your speech therapy sessions, in your daily life, in your interactions with people all around you, and see what the results are. I'm really curious to see how many of you will actually follow through with this and actually give us some feedback. All right, today's episode is fueled by my travel mug because today I am going through keto flu. I don't know if any of you have been on the ketogenic diet, but the first week is a little rough. So if I seem a little foggy or out of it, that's why. So I've got my MCT oil in my coffee mug and I am ready to do this. Fueled by fat today. All right, so today we're talking about the 4-to-1 ratio. Now this is something that I was first introduced to when I was working in early childhood special education. But as I have gotten into the business world, gotten into private practice, even just noticed interactions in my daily life, I found that this 4-to-1 ratio is so much more than just something you use in preschool. So if you're not familiar with this, the 4-to-1 ratio is 4 positive interactions to every 1 negative interaction. And when I originally learned this for early childhood, we were talking about working with preschool students. So if you ask them to do something or you correct what they are doing, that is considered a negative in this system. And for each time that you have to do that, you need to make up for that with 4 positive interactions. Now that doesn't have to be praise, so it can be praise, it can be good job, but it doesn't have to be. This can also be just smiling and saying hello, or asking how they are, or commenting on what's on their shirt or their shoes. Kids love it when you do that. So there's all kinds of different ways that you can have a positive interaction that counts towards this positive number that's not just giving praise. So don't feel like I'm saying we're going to say, okay, say this sound now, and they say it, and then we give them 4 good jobs. It's not quite what we're going for here. So this works very easily into childhood therapy. It's harder to do than it is to explain, so I'll give you that. But when you're working in therapy with children, and don't worry, we are going to get to the medical side, the adult side, the private practice side. We're going to talk about all that today. But when you're working with children in therapy, you can keep a tally, you can have somebody else keep a tally, or you can just try to remember to do it in your head. But for every time that you have to ask them to do something or make a correction, either of their behavior or their speech, if they say the sound wrong and you say, oh, let's try it this way, that counts as a negative. And so for each of those, you have to increase that number of positive interactions by 4-to-1. So that's where the 4-to-1 challenge comes from. So this alone can change your therapy sessions with children immensely. But I want to talk about how this looks in some of the other settings as well. Because I feel like, at least for me, when we start working with especially adults or older children, we think, well, they're adults or they're teenagers. They don't need all this fluff. They don't need us to really boost them up so that they can get through this. We need to practice. We need lots of reps. We need to get through this. But for those situations, it's still so important to do this 4-to-1 ratio. So let's look at how this looks in adult therapy. Okay, so you may be thinking, well, it's adults. We don't need to do the fluff, right? We don't need to build them up. So let me give you a scenario. Let's imagine that you wake up in the morning, you go to make your coffee, and your spouse walks through the kitchen and says, hey, I'm not gonna have time to do dishes today. I need you to do the dishes, and then walks away. Okay, so that's one ask, right? Another way to look at this is 4 gives to 1 ask. So if they asked you to do something, your spouse asked you to do something. If that is the only interaction you've had with your spouse all day so far, that kind of feels aggressive and very like, oh, wow, okay, what? Good morning to you too. So that one negative interaction in this scenario needs to be offset by 4 positives to make it really an effective relationship. So think about it this way. Let's say you get up, your spouse comes in and says, good morning, and gives you a smile, comes over and gives you a hug, we're up to 2, and then they say, how was your morning? Or how did you sleep? And you say, oh, I slept okay, oh, that's great. And then they ask you to do the dishes, so there's our 1, and then they say, thank you so much, I really appreciate it. Now, think about how you felt in each of those scenarios. For the first one, you probably are like, okay, fine, yeah, I'll do the dishes, and you just do what you need to do and be done with it. The second scenario, though, you've got the positive interaction, you feel connected to your spouse, and you're probably more likely to do the dishes and clean the rest of the kitchen while you're at it because you're feeling very generous, because you feel like you had that connection. So even though, no, we don't necessarily need somebody to give us all of that fluff and the positive interaction in order to do what they ask, we're going to probably go above and beyond for the people that do give us those interactions. So this 4-to-1 ratio is important in literally every interaction in your life. This is how human beings connect with each other. This is how we interact. So you can't ignore that when you're in your therapy sessions. So let's look at how that would look in a therapy session. Let's say you really need this adult or this teenager to do 50 reps of whatever skill it is. Okay, that's a lot. How are you going to ask them to do something 50 times and then provide 4 times that in positive interaction, right? That seems like a lot. So here's a way you can do that. You come into the room, you spend the first 3 minutes of your session in nothing but positive interactions. So you come in, you say, how are you feeling today? How was last night? How are your grandkids? How's this going? You talk to them, you listen, you respond, you ask them what they're upset about. You provide a helpful ear to listen. And if they need help, then you offer that as well. Okay, so you've got 3 minutes of positive interactions. How many do you think you can tally up in 3 minutes? Probably a lot. Okay, so you build it up at the front, so you have a lot of positive interactions at the front, and then you say, all right, we got to get down to work. So here's what we got today. We got to do this skill. We're going to do it 50 times. I've got a clicker. Get your clicker out, and you say, every time I hear a good one, I'm going to click it. And when we get to 50, you're done with that skill for today. Okay, so the click on the clicker actually serves as a positive. So when they hear that, they know they did it right. Okay, so your positive doesn't have to be this elaborate over-the-top praise. It can just be a click acknowledging that they did it correctly. Okay, so now, assuming you get to that 50 reps, you've got 50 clicks, so that's 50 positive. You have your big bulk of positive from the beginning, and then even if you have to correct them on 20 different reps, you're still doing really good on your counts. So you go through your reps, you get your 50 in, and then at the end you spend another 2 or 3 minutes in some more positive interaction, relationship building to get those numbers back up. At the end of that, you're gonna have your 4-to-1 ratio, and that client, number one, they were more engaged in your session because they felt like you cared about them. And number two, they're probably more likely to practice that after you leave because they're like, wow, she's really helping me out. I'm gonna help her, I'm gonna work on this, I'm gonna do my part as well. So that alone can make a huge difference in your therapy sessions with adults as well. Okay, so let's look at this for private practice, okay? If you're not familiar with SLP Solution, we have 3 kind of modes of our business. We target speech language pathologists that are working with kids, those who are in private practice, and those who are in the medical field. We have professional memberships for each of those groups with trainings and resources and all kinds of stuff. So if you want to look at that, you can head over to slpsolution.com, but I am going to try to target those 3 groups when we are doing our videos here. So how does the 4-to-1 look in private practice? Well, obviously it's the same in your therapy sessions where you should be doing that throughout your therapy sessions, but this is also something that's really good for marketing. So if you think about, let's say, your Facebook page, okay? If your Facebook page is one after one after one of you asking for the sales, you're saying, hey, come in and do therapy in my clinic. Hey, we have speech therapy. Hey, here's this speech therapy. Have you come in for language therapy? Here's pragmatic therapy. Somebody's gonna land on your Facebook page and be like, she just wants to sell me her service. And maybe if they're looking for your service, that's all they need. But chances are, the customers that are landing on your Facebook page are going to need to have a relationship built with them before they feel comfortable giving you their child or bringing themselves in to say, hey, I've got a problem that's really hard for me to fix and I need some help. That's hard for a lot of people to say. So what works better is if you can build the relationship, and building the relationship uses the 4-to-1. So in this case, we're gonna call it 4 gives to 1 ask. So your asking is pitching. So you're pitching your services, you're telling them what you have for sale, you're telling them to come in and get therapy. That's an ask. So for every time that you post on your Facebook page about your business or about your service, like here's what we're serving, here's what you can pay for, you need to have 4 gives. So how could you provide value to your potential customers? Well, if let's say you're targeting children. So you're going to be looking at the parents of those children, and that's who you serve. So maybe you put up a quick tip on your Facebook page about how to use visual aids to get through your morning with less stress. That's a huge one in my house. So there's a gift. You gave them a tip that helps them get through their mornings. Maybe you share a blog post that you found somewhere else that relates to children with speech and language problems. Maybe you put up an inspirational post. We're up to 3 now. I was counting down here. You can't see that. Maybe you put up an inspirational quote and you just go into canva.com, you make a cute little quote, you put it on there. And number 4, maybe you just share something about yourself. So you take a picture of your dog or your kid and you put it on there and you say, hey, this is who we are. We'd love to get to know you. So that's 4 for every one time that you say, oh, and by the way, we do speech therapy. Do you need some speech therapy? Here, come on in and get some speech therapy. So that's going to show your potential customers that you care about them, that you're willing to give in addition to receive. And that can really build the relationship and build that know, like, and trust to have people come to your clinic and come get therapy with you. So there we go. I covered them all. This really does apply to every area of your life. You can even do this when you're getting coffee at the coffee shop. You walk up, you smile, you say, how are you? You order your coffee, there's your ask, and as you're running your credit card, you compliment their shirt, and when they finish the transaction, you thank them genuinely and give them a smile. Okay, so you had 4 to 1 for the coffee girl who's making your coffee, and chances are you're more likely, because you made those interactions and built that relationship, even with someone you don't know and probably you'll never see again, you're more likely to, maybe you get a better coffee. Maybe they brew it better, not brew it, they always brew it the same, but maybe they add a little something extra, or you get some extra of the whatever add-in you asked for. Or maybe she says, oh, you know what, there's a coupon here. You wanna use this coupon? You know, you never know what kinds of benefits you might get from that. And even if none of those benefits come from it, you're both just gonna feel better because you're being positive and that person feels like they got a nice interaction and they're cared about. It's gonna make everybody's day a little better. So hey, worst case scenario, you made everyone's day better, right? So here's my challenge to you. Go out and do this. You can do this in just 1 or 2 interactions. You can try to do it all day long, but I want to hear your results. So go do the 4 to 1 challenge. Tell me how it worked. Did something change as a result of you taking the time to build those relationships and create those positive interactions that helped you or helped your client or got you through a therapy session that is normally really painful? Let's hear about your results on the 4 to 1 challenge. I would love to hear that. If you are watching this on YouTube or if you are listening on iTunes, head on over to Facebook. Go to facebook.com/SLP Solution. Find this video on there and post it in the comments. We can continue the conversation there and you guys can show me all of your awesome results of the 4 to 1 challenge. All right, thank you all so much for watching today. That's what we have for you. I'm still trying to get this on iTunes. The iTunes platform is broken currently, so you can't get in to add new podcasts. And I have been assured that they are working very hard on getting it fixed. So as soon as that is up and running, we will add this to iTunes, so you can subscribe and listen on there. We will also have this on the Facebook page and eventually on the blog on the website over at slpsolution.com. We are currently having a redesign done so that we're going to get a brand new website very soon, and I didn't want to start this over there until we get that done. So also check out SLP Solution. We've got those professional memberships like I was talking about. You can go to slpsolution.com and find out about our memberships for pediatric SLPs, medical SLPs, and private practice SLPs. All right, thank you all so much for watching.